Hello and welcome back to St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone as we continue our lessons on learning the Summa Theologia here in 2020, and I'm glad you're with us. And during this session, I'm going to focus on a brief lesson on what the popes have said about St. Thomas Aquinas over the centuries since he lived back in the 13th century. And as you'll see from these, it's pretty impressive what they've said. And this also goes to highlight why I think it's important for us today in the 21st century to learn the teachings of St. Thomas Aquinas. And the reason I call it St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone is because I think everyone ought to learn Thomistic philosophy, and I think it's something that could be taught to very young children, and I even wrote a book on that called St. Thomas Aquinas for everyone. So let's get right to it. What have the popes said about St. Thomas Aquinas, and why have they encouraged us to learn it? Here is a pope that you're very familiar with, most likely, Pope St. John Paul II. And he said the church has been justified in consistently proposing St. Thomas as a master of thought and a model of the right way to do theology. This has always been the case, and of course ever since he lived and through the Council of Trent, which was largely, the documents of Trent were largely used based on Thomistic philosophy and the Summa Theologia, which we'll be teaching. So here's another quote from St. John Paul II. The magisterium's intention has always been to show how St. Thomas is an authentic model for all who seek the truth. In his thinking, the demands of reason and power of faith found the most elevated synthesis ever attained by human thought. Okay, ever attained by human thought. So as you learn the Summa, you are really being taught by a master, and I mean St. Thomas Aquinas, not me. Okay, I'm just somebody who fell in love with this teaching and want to spread it to as many people as possible. Okay, so that's the comment from our late Holy Father, St. John Paul II. Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI continued by saying, Thomas Aquinas showed there is a natural harmony between Christian faith and reason, and this was the great work of Thomas, who in that moment of encounter between two cultures created a new synthesis which shaped the culture of the following centuries, and of course continues to shape us and our culture and our century today. And I would argue that the teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas is more necessary today in 2020 than it has been really ever, because there's so much confusion and there's so much need to get back to the basics of what we believe as Christians, right? That's what Thomas did. So what were these two cultures? I believe what Pope Benedict was talking about is the ancient Greek culture of philosophy, Aristotle and Plato, and then the Christian era as well. And these seemed in the 13th century to be in conflict with each other. And Thomas said, no, they're not in conflict with each other. They can harmonize. And he brought together the teachings of the great Greek philosophers and then all the great Christian teachers as well. All right, Pope St. Pius X lived in the early 20th century, and he said, those who depart from the teaching of St. Thomas seem to ultimately affect their withdrawal from the church. As we have said, one may not desert Aquinas, especially in philosophy and theology, without great harm. Following him is the safest way to the knowledge of divine things. Okay, so how would you like to learn the safest way to the knowledge of divine things? That's what Pope St. Pius X said was the solution. Pope John the 22nd. Now this is the Pope, I believe, who canonized St. Thomas Aquinas. I'm pretty sure about this. And this was in the encyclical or the letter that he wrote, which explained and defined the canonization. He said his life was saintly and his doctrine could only be miraculous because he enlightened the church more than all the other doctors. By the use of his works, a man could profit more in 1 year than if he studies the doctrine of others for his whole life. Okay, and so my goal with all of this is to teach the Summa to you in a year. Okay, and that's going to be something that will be rolled out in time. How would you like to learn the entire Summa in 1 calendar year? Maybe we'll do it in 2021, but this year was going to be kind of setting that up and getting ready for it. And so that is a wrap-up of just some of the comments. There's many, many more, but if I put all the comments that all the popes have said about St. Thomas Aquinas over the last 7-8 centuries, then this would be an hour-and-a-half long broadcast, and I know you don't have time for that. So anyways, that's a smattering of what the popes have said. In my next segment, I'm going to talk about a encyclical from another pope that is in the introduction to the Summa Theologia. It's called Eternitatis, and it's by Pope Leo XIII. It's the restoration of Christian philosophy according to the mind of St. Thomas Aquinas, and it's really, really good. I encourage you to read it, but I'll show you some excerpts, and I'll tell you why Leo XIII thought it was incredibly important that all Christians learn the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. That's it for now. I'm Dave Palmer. This has been this edition of St. Thomas Aquinas for Everyone. Thank you very much for watching. God bless you.